What's up, film fans? It's Epic Film Guys here. It's Nick.
And Justin.
And we're here to talk about the film that's currently tromping and destroying its way through the box office right now. And that, of course, is Godzilla. Justin, tell us how the box office went.
Right now, Godzilla has broke the record for this year so far. Right now, it's at 93.2 million domestic and 196 million international worldwide. So far, it has beat the record for every single blockbuster this year. That includes Captain America: The Winter Soldier and The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
A lot bigger opening than Spidey.
A lot bigger opening for both. Right now, it has actually been announced already earlier this morning, if not yesterday, if I recall, that Legendary Pictures said the sequel's happening. They've already greenlit the sequel, which I already assumed would happen with the big enough opening, but it was big enough to happen. Right
it was
now,
a foregone conclusion with the box office being what it was, that this was going to happen, but I couldn't be happier. I don't know anyone that wouldn't be happy about this. I mean, anyone that loved the film, which most people did, are excited to see what the possibilities are for a sequel. And I want to go right into that. I mean, Justin, what did you think about the film?
What I thought about the film, it was the movie that I waited for probably for the past year. I mean, I looked very much forward to this. The trailers wowed me. Not a huge Godzilla fan. I'm not as big a fan as a lot of you out there, but I've always been a great fan. Grew up watching the movies, Sunday afternoons, and it was the movie that I wanted to see all along this spring. And after, lots of superhero movies the past couple of years, I was ready to see a giant monster destroy things. But I have to say,
not lame giant monsters like the ones we got in Pacific Rim.
Oh, well, that's okay. But at the same time, I really did enjoy the movie. We'll get to our rating at the end of the film, as far as at the end of the review, what we actually thought overall of the movie. But overall, I have to say I really enjoyed it. Not a perfect film, mind you. I didn't think it was the best it could be, but I think it was a great picture done by a director who only just directed his second film ever.
Was really out to prove something, I think, when he made this film, and I really think he did a really good job of proving it. Made a film that, number one, is really fun. Great film just visually to watch. I mean, I know I applauded a couple times in the theater.
Oh, we did it many times.
That crowd was great energy.
There was a lot of applauding. There certainly was.
There was a lot of really great shots where I loved it. I loved the experience of it. It was the most fun I've had at the movies so far this year, except for Grand Budapest Hotel, but that was a different kind of fun. But
of course. Now, I think, first and foremost, everyone wants to talk about this aspect of the movie, and a lot of people either dismayed it or broke it for them, so to speak, was the slow burn, the tension that Edwards built in the movie. Now, before this came out, I get into spoilers a little bit, not a lot, but I knew that it was, harking back to Jaws, Jurassic Park, Spielbergian films, Spielberg films, the way that things were done, monster-type movies, or anything where you would see things, halfway through the film. There's a good build-up, there's a good tension.
Absolutely.
And for me, at least, that build-up and tension was perfect. Now, I enjoy films of the old. I like that old-school build-up. I'm really, to be honest with you, as a film fan, I have to admit to all of you, I'm sick of getting everything thrown at me in the beginning of the film. I'm sick of just getting spoon-fed everything. Right in the beginning, just give me all the action, give me everything, and then the whole movie's just that.
It's what, just over 2 hours, I think.
It's 2 hours, 22 minutes, actually.
Wherever it clocks in. But I think a lot of the backlash that we've seen, one of the only negative things about the film is people that literally, as soon as the opening titles were done, they wanted Godzilla rampaging right through the city. Oh, he's chewing on a skyscraper, he's ripping everything apart and doing all this different stuff. And they wanted, for a 2.5 hour movie, they wanted an hour and 45 minutes of Godzilla. And I agree with you completely. I like the less is more approach that Edwards used. Very Spielbergian.
It worked.
It worked perfectly. It made those money shots, it made those moments when you applauded in the cinema, it made them feel so much greater because you had to wait for them. There was a slow build up to them, and it the energy was so great. If it would have been like an hour and a half of Godzilla tearing shit apart, sure, it would have looked cool for a while.
Cool,
but would you have been applauding at the end of the film during some of those scenes when, you know, the final battle climaxes and everything? No, you would have been like, this is still going on. This is still going on. And
that's one thing I think Hollywood right now has wrong, and I think that this film got right. And I know Edwards, you know, he mentioned that one of his favorite films of all time is Jaws. He's a great director, mind you. Now, I watched Monsters, which is his first film that he independently filmed and actually did all of the CGI in his own house, in his house computer. I watched it about a year ago as soon as I heard that he was going to be directing the film. Great movie. He knew how to direct, good characters, and Monsters were just background. Now, that overall worked for this film as well, I think. And he knew what he was doing. He really wanted to go back to what it meant to make a good monster movie. What made us care about those monsters? What made us excited to see them? And that meant that we didn't see a lot of them. You know, and that's just... It's old school filmmaking at its best, I think. And now, like I said, a lot of people did complain, and I will admit to you, the Less is More approach worked about 90% of the time for me. There was a few scenes where he built up really great. Like the first unveiling of Godzilla, the monorail sequence in Hawaii. You saw him from the foot up, and he was there in all his glorious nature. He looked awesome. I was so excited. I had goosebumps all over me. Well, it's been a long time, I'll admit to you, Nick, that I've felt that kind of emotional feeling in the theater. I mean, I enjoy movies, but...
Man of Steel was the last time.
Man of Steel, I felt that too. I won't lie to you. That's probably one of the last ones I did. I feel emotions for every film that I watch, but for as far as like an action blockbuster type of movie...
It has to really do something for me to really make my skin kind of tingle a little bit. And it's just where your eyes open a little bit wider, and you kind of push a little bit forward in your seat, and like you feel the excitement, you know, rippling through your fingertips, and you're just kind of you can't wait to see more. You can't wait to see more, and Edwards really delivers that in the film. But I will agree, there's a couple shots like that first money shot of Godzilla.
Right.
He roars, it's great. Bam, cuts away.
Now you had mentioned a lot about how Cranston opens the film, and amazingly, mind you. Now, did you want to like let us know a little bit on what you felt about the way that Cranston?
First of all, I can't ooze enough respect for the kind of actor that Bryan Cranston is and how great he is.
Of course.
This film is as good as it is because of Bryan Cranston. No question, because
I agree.
Centers the film. He gives it such an emotional core, and he throws everything into this performance. And it's fantastic the way that he does it. To branch off of that, however, when you get into once his character passes the torch, so to speak, over to Aaron Taylor Johnson, it's just not the same kind of lead.
Not.
It doesn't have the same kind of emotional resonance that Cranston's performance does. But I mean, you can't not like Cranston in the film. I mean, of course, he's coming off of Breaking Bad, and I mean, he's such a classy guy. You know, he's such a humble guy.
He put his all into that. I can see that, and the emotion at the beginning of the film, I think, really set it on a good path for the remainder of the film. But the problem is, and a lot of people, I'll get on this immediately about the Aaron Taylor Johnson being wooden. I think it was just a tough thing. You know, you're leaving. Your Cranston's gone. He's out of the movie, and he's, in my opinion, and Nick's as well. We agreed on this. He's basically, without saying so, handing the film off to Godzilla. Godzilla is the title character, and the rest of the movie is supposed to be on the shoulders of Godzilla.
Now, literally, the film belongs to Cranston until Cranston is gone, and it is not a minute later in the film, runtime-wise, that you first hear the name Godzilla, and then it very quickly leads up to the unveiling at the airport, like you said.
And basically after that, it's right into, you know, the action of the movie starts.
It's all about
right
that
on.
guy.
Yeah. Right into this. There he is.
Yeah.
Gojira, also known as the Godzilla American interpretation. But point being, as far as Aaron Taylor Johnson is concerned, at first, and he had to convince me of this, I did think he was a little bit wooden at the first viewing of the film. I took some time to soak it in.
Yeah, and I wanted to touch on the point of Johnson being wooden in the film, because I don't think that's a fair assessment. It's not Hunnam in Pacific Rim by any stretch. It's not even close.
Nowhere near that bad.
He's not wooden. He's hardened in this film. He plays a son who's got a really detached relationship with his father, who kind of had to raise himself in a way. But in those Japan scenes,
The early scenes, yeah.
there's a lot of scenes in there where he's really forcing himself to hold himself together emotionally, but he's tearing up a little bit. You know, he's getting upset, but he's obviously a guy who really spends a lot of time keeping himself composed, and he's getting a lot of criticism. I think it's an unfair comparison with an actor the caliber of Cranston, handing the film over to him as the lead. Of course, not even close.
No, not
even
close.
The levels of talent there.
I mean,
as much as I love Taylor Johnson,
he hasn't had much to really go off of. He was in the two kick-ass movies that both did decent but weren't huge films, and he played John Lennon in Nowhere Boy. He's still an unknown actor, so to speak. So he's still. I thought he was really great, and I don't buy the wooden crap at all. I absolutely don't. I completely disagree. I did at first, I won't lie, but then after we talked about it and I realized what kind of character he was trying to play.
It really, if you're going to go see the film again, and you probably should, I mean, just for the spectacle of it, but really watch his performance, especially in the scenes he has with Cranston. Their entire relationship is built so well in those scenes.
I think so.
It really is. But I wanted to get on from that and just get your thoughts on the rest of the cast. Watanabe as the scientist. Dr. Shirazawa, I think.
Yeah, and which actually harkens back to the original Gojira film with the Doctor, which is he's playing a loose version of that character.
Yeah.
I thought he did okay. I thought he kind of phoned it in a little bit, like actually more than.
It's for you.
Mr. Watanabe? Hello? I thought he did an okay job. I mean, like, I was very excited. I mean, he's like the go-to guy for Japanese actors now in Hollywood, so they got him. He enjoyed doing the film. You could tell he really put a lot of effort into promoting the film.
Watanabe's been better in other blockbusters. I think he was a lot better when he did Inception with Nolan.
I mean, it just depends on direction as well, which we'll get to later on in the review. But I think he was serviceable, and I think a lot of good scenes he was pretty good in. Now, here's another question, and I have a lot of thoughts on this one. What did you think about Elizabeth Olsen in the film?
Wasted. A
little bit.
She was great for what she was given. She knocked it out of the park.
I love her.
Cranston was the emotional center of the first part of the film. Taylor Johnson, as I said, was trying to strip himself of it.
He's a very bold, strict character.
Olsen really had to be the emotional core of the film past that, and I think she did a great job. But literally, she was reduced to just running around and hiding in shelters for the second half.
Crying on the phone. I mean, and I love her. This is coming. I only seen I saw her in Old Boy, the Spike Lee remake, and then I saw her in Silent House. It was a home invasion thriller, and I love her. I think she's fantastic. I was very upset to see that she had so much little to do. I almost even have the opinion that I feel like she should not even have been in the film. They should have cast somebody else in such a small role. But what she did was great.
Anybody else that they put in the role would have been just as wasted. I mean, if they had gotten a worse actress, though, I really think it would have been.
I'm glad to see her getting the work, and she put a lot of effort into promoting the film. So awesome about that. But let's move on to what everyone wants to talk about: the King himself, the King of Monsters.
It's petty.
Pet him because he's very cute in the film. A little bit, you know.
This is a Godzilla you wouldn't want to go up and pet.
I wanted
to have to pat like this tiny little part next to his nostril.
In a couple scenes, I saw him laid there, a little vase, little puppy. I want to pet him.
You still look like you were kind of cuddling up close to him.
I thought about it a little bit, but I have to say, as a Godzilla fan in general, my favorite design of the character, I thought they knocked it out of the park. What do you think of that?
I absolutely love the design. First of all, he is colossal. You can't really see this building behind Justin here, but that's just kind of goes off the screen there. And then there's this other one over here. He's towering over that.
They made Godzilla the tallest version that he's ever been.
Massively
and
taller.
This is confirmed by GodzillaMovies.com. He is the tallest version he's ever been in any Godzilla movie.
He is colossal. Like in the airport scene that we already talked about, when his foot steps down in front of that window, I don't even know how to describe the scale of it visually.
Massive.
It's so impressive to look at. It's just beautiful. I absolutely love this design.
It was early on that we learned that they modeled him after a Komodo dragon and, of course, a bear. Anyone that's seen the film can see the bear-like instincts, the way he moves. It worked great for the film. I think that When he moves, everything about it. Now, mind you, Andy Serkis did work on the film slightly. He's also the one that did Gollum in Lord of the Rings, King Kong, and Caesar in the Planet of the Apes reboot series, and still on, so he's still doing that. But he worked on the film slightly, and I think that the work they did on Godzilla himself was great. Most of the fans are really happy with it.
I honestly haven't heard any complaints about the design.
Now, I wanted to ask you, because I'm very excited to talk about this aspect real quickly so we can get this out of the way. What did you think of the Mutos?
Mutos were effective. I want to get into the Muto babies thing because
do it as soon as you want.
And I'm sorry, but this is the one part of the film where I really was just like, holy, really? Are we really doing this?
I know, I felt
the
it too, a
thing?
little bit. I did.
I mean, why couldn't they just be monsters that were showing up? I mean, they do the whole man versus nature theme, which I want to get into, but they just bring these monsters in, just have them show up, have them causing chaos, and have Godzilla show up as the antithesis to them.
Right.
And just, smack them around. You don't need the additional subplot. I felt it was created to force additional tension and additional drama.
Just so you're not realizing it by now, we're talking about the baby aspect.
Oh, the little baby Mutos. The little baby Mutos. I'm sorry,
and that
it doesn't work.
Scene that really just didn't
pathetic.
work at all.
It's absolutely. It's created because they still needed a human element to the film to cut away to during the final battle scene, and I'm sorry, it just feels contrived. I don't feel any emotional stake in it. I don't care. At this point of the movie, you've gotten so far into it, you've gone through all the human scenes, everything. You're at the final battle. You just want to watch the battle.
And here's the thing
that's where
I
less
will
is more
mention
doesn't
to you,
work.
and a lot of you fans will probably get really mad at me saying this. The egg scene actually made me reminiscent of Gino. Godzilla in name only. We call him Zilla because Toho trademarked him Zilla.
There was a great film
with all those little raptor-like creatures in Madison Square Garden.
I hated that in that film too.
I hated it in that film. But so I was very actually upset that Edwards would even agree to that kind of subplot in this movie because it made no sense.
No, the subplot
didn't add anything.
Didn't even add anything.
I mean, even if you were to have the Mutos mating in the film,
you can have the danger. You can fine. They're mating, or you could even have had a scene of two giant monsters mating for all I really care. But we don't need the babies. We don't need the drama of all the babies. Ooh,
one thing I do want to get on the subject of real quick before we end on the subject of the Mutos was that I actually loved the design. They were awesome monsters. I mean, because most of this film is the Mutos. You see them more than you see Godzilla. I thought they were very menacing, scary creatures. I liked all the homages to Jurassic Park. Yes, Edwards, we saw your homages. We saw the scene with Muto walk, up next to the side. Then the wipe in the window scene on the bridge.
If we would have saw a couple
they
water
were very
ripple, it would have been
foes for Godzilla. They definitely go back. They're going to be added into the Rogues Gallery for.
Speaking of the Mutos, and this
Godzilla.
is something that I with themes I had touched on this briefly, but think about the way that the Mutos represent, the destructiveness of man versus Godzilla being the ultimate force of nature. Don't the Mutos
is nature.
Don't the Mutos design-wise kind of look a little more industrial? A little more
they certainly do.
Metallic, a little more, they release an electromagnetic
slick,
pulse.
Very well.
And I want to get into that later, as I said before, but I really think that now that I think about it, they're more artificial feeling than Godzilla. Godzilla's design feels very natural, like he looks like an animal. The Mutos, they
acts like an animal.
They do look like animals in a way. They were modeled after bears too, especially the female one. When the way that's lumbering through the city like that in that one scene. There's definitely a little bit of that there. There's definitely a little bit of animalism, but just the design of them, the color that they are, it's like a sleek metallic gray color.
It is.
It's definitely. The theme of man versus nature, very very prominent.
But I have to say, every scene that they were in, with even no Godzilla, no other element, I love them. I'm a huge monster movie fan, and every single scene, the opening scene at the nuclear power plant, I felt it. I loved it. It was awesome. The destruction they caused, I love the look of them. Perfect. Awesome.
But the one thing, I think it's time. I think it's time.
Is it time? Is it time for that?
It's time.
Is it time?
Let us know. I want the score. I want the score. Tell me what you thought. Out of 10, lay it out there. Throw it out there.
My score on the film? You're asking me?
I'm asking you.
It took a lot of time. We soaked it in after we saw the film. He saw it a second time. I will admit I wanted to. I haven't gotten a chance to. Now, mind you, film fans, we both saw this first opening on IMAX 3D.
In IMAX, lamentably in 3D.
It's about the same size screen as Lincoln Square in New York City. The 3D did nothing. Post-converted garbage did nothing.
It is absolutely... It is a waste. Absolutely.
I understand what Edwards had to put up with. I am sure he doesn't care about the 3D, but they made him do it. But
it's a tentpole. It's a tentpole blockbuster. That's what they just do with all these.
Point being,
it pisses me off.
After much thought, I gave the film a 9 out of 10. I loved it. I enjoyed it a lot. There were some things that I didn't care for, but overall, I thought about the overall experience from start to finish, and everything about it. I pretty much got everything I wanted and expected. What did you think?
I'm gonna train right off of that, and I'm not as generous as he is in film ratings. I think we already learned that with Spider-Man 2, but I'm gonna go straight up 8.5 out of 10. The Muto Babies,
pretty close.
The Muto Babies thing really rubbed me the wrong way. It was a side plot that didn't need to be there. The post-converted 3D added nothing. That didn't hurt or help my score.
Throw that out, man. Edwards, really, throw it out for the sequel.
I think...
Versus Mothra,
as much as we... there he goes. I think the biggest problem that I had with less is more, and I loved it for 90% of the runtime. But like I said, it ties with the Muto Babies, the whole thing. By the time you get to the end of the film, we're at the final battle. You want to see the big G slapping it down with these Mutos, and they keep cutting away to this human stuff. At some point, you gotta give the film over to the king. Look at him.
Now here's the thing.
He's the star of the film.
We're doing our ratings real quick, but you already just heard them. One thing I have to bring up real quick before we end this for you guys, epic film guys here, and you film fans, the atomic breath, how amazing was that? Both times. The first time you saw the spine.
That was when the applaud came.
And then applauds went. And then the end when he just opens
Dude, that is such a...
Are you serious?
The build-up of that
so epic.
That scene is so effective. That scene is so effective because of the way that Edwards builds everything and the whole thing. That was such a moment of elation. That was like in Man of Steel when he's in the Indian Ocean and the world build and he's going to stop it, like the tingles that you feel.
I know.
Crawling up, your goosebumps.
Literally, here's the thing. Scene. We'll end on this note because here's the thing. Edwards had a lot of faults in this movie. But mind you,
he's a very young director. He's only second movie out of the gate.
Second movie he's ever done.
Yep.
This movie proved that he is very, very talented. He's got the ability to do a lot more. And he had a lot of studio pressure on this. He had a lot of things to deal with. He's going to make the sequel. I hope so. And he's going to make a lot of good movies. He's going to make a lot of good movies.
I want him to make something else first. I want him to get out of the genre and then come back for the sequel. I don't want him to go straight into Godzilla 2. Granted, I don't necessarily think that that's going to be a terrible thing. But I want him to broaden his horizons. I love the way he shoots things. I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to happen. It depends on, we haven't heard anything about release dates for the sequel, whether they're going to try to push it to a 2-year fast track it or not. I really hope that that's not the case as much as I really want to see the sequel to the film. I don't want him to fast track it and ruin it either. Like Batman Superman, pushing it back for the 3-year window for Man of Steel was a great...
Yeah, it was a good idea.
It's what it really needs. I think the Marvel films, and I think you would agree with this to a point, have suffered because... they're cramming them out of the gate so fast.
This right here was a breath of fresh air.
It was. It
in
really
the midst of superhero fandom every other month. I mean, honestly, there's going to be a point, and I love them just like we all enjoy them, but they're getting to a point where it's just, it's too much. That's why this film just took #1. That's why it just beat The Winter Soldier's box office opening. It beat Amazing Spider-Man 2.
But speaking of superheroes... this Thursday, in just a couple days, Days of Future Past, X-Men, we're going to be at the AMC
Bryan
here in Vestal.
Singer's return to the X-Men franchise, that's right, and we'll be here at
absolutely
AMC
will. The opening night.
Vestal Parkway.
Not 3D, we'll be there watching it in 2D at 10 o'clock.
Not 3D. It's a gimmick.
Not 3D.
Don't buy into it. It's only there for the studios. But we'll be there, and hopefully some of you guys will be out there to...
You gotta. I mean, it's reserved seating, and it's probably sold out by now. So
we want to talk to you.
Tickets.
We want your opinion. We want to know what makes you tick and what makes you want to see films. But until then, this is Justin and...
Nick.
Epic Film Guys. We just reviewed Godzilla, and it's a really good rating. We hope you liked it. We hope you saw it. We hope you enjoyed it.
Go see this film.
We also hope that you will subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is...
www.youtube.com/epicfilmguysny.
And our Facebook page, which is www.facebook.com/epicfilmguys.
And you can always follow us on Twitter @epicfilmguys.
Again, we're Epic Film Guys, and we are out. I might even go see Godzilla again right now. Who knows? I'm kind of in the mood.
It's like 11:43. I don't think you're going to catch a show at this time.
I'll wait in the morning. 10 a.m. showing.
Have a good night, film fans.